Was talking on Sunday there about Chris Boyd at Fir Park, talking about Barry Ferguson and talking about sports science, really casting doubt on sports science, casting doubt on science in general. Rangers supporters up in arms because of the team that they'd seen, the first 11 that was announced before the game, so they get into the big Motorola stand already upset, ready to completely lose it. And it's just, this could be one of two games. This could be either of two games. It's either Sunday's game where we draw 2 each against Motherwell at Fir Park, and I'm talking about this in the post-match reaction afterwards, or it's 2nd of January 2007 where we beat Motherwell 1-0. And was it Daryl Purcell, I think, scored the goal. Gavin Ray was Rangers captain. Barry Ferguson's been dropped, and I get back home for that game. I was in the front row, maybe the second front row of the Davy Cooper stand. It was so far down the Davy Cooper stand that I could see the undulations, the pock marks, the crevices. I could see the crazy camber of the Fir Park pitch. And the Fir Park pitch, it's mental. It's been sorted out since then. And the drainage was really bad. Gretna were playing on it as well. There's the following season. Oh, I just couldn't handle it. Crazy Fir Park pitch. That's all been resolved now, isn't it? But Rangers and a shaven-headed, balding foreign manager who's really fit for his age and has got these weird ideas about stopping players being injured and making them fitter. Well, he's again that hasn't he? And Chris Boyd is there. Chris Boyd, when Daryl Purcell scored the only goal of the game, he's up there making the sign of the six. Barry, it's Barry Ferguson. We support the captain. I got back home for watching that game, and I saw the Satanta. I think it was Satanta. Was it the interviews with the supporters outside the Motorola stand in the way, and they'd seen the team sheet. They'd seen that Barry wasn't in the team. They'd seen that Gavin Ray was the captain, and this is just like Gwen's got to go. He's got to go, because the other thing was he wasn't letting them eat spring onion crisps. He wasn't letting us eat sports science. He wasn't letting Barry Ferguson eat a spring onion crisp, and there was Boydie giving it spring onion crisps. Barry Ferguson, we support him. Is this manager gaslighting us? Is he telling us lies about the fitness of the players lacking in character? Let's hate our own. That's what it's all about. Let's hate our own. Let's drive them out there, because, of course, we got Walter in. We got rid of Paul Le Guen, and then, well, it doesn't matter that Paul Le Guen was the first Rangers manager who ever had me sitting watching a dead rubber European group stage match, which was a dead rubber European group stage match because Rangers were already through. We were already through that game against Partizan Belgrade. Alan Hutton 1-0. We were already through into the next round of the UEFA Cup as it was then, but they were already at the group stages. They were testing it out. But I mean, Walter came in and he got to the final. He got to the European final. That was, so it was absolutely a correct decision. But Barry, there was a wee game in between times, wasn't there? A wee game in between times, between getting Walter back in for his second coming and between Paul Le Guen leaving, and it was a Scottish Cup match up at Dunfermline. I used to go to the away games then, all the home games, the season ticket obviously, but I would do the away games as well. And I was up at East End Park, and Dunfermline they were bottom of the league. I don't think they'd won a single game in the league all season. Here we were, early January, Scottish Cup, and I mean, Ian Durant was in the dugout, but really it was Barry. Barry was back, Boydie was back. The clique that was running, the clique that knew more about Raiders, they knew what we were all about. But is that Le Guen? He didn't. He doesn't have a clue. He doesn't get Scottish football. And the spring onion crisps. And we were 3-0 down at half time, and we lost the game 3-2. It was an utter humiliation. Then when Walter came in, we beat Dundee 95-0 in his first game. Barry Ferguson scores the closest I've come to no celebrating a goal. But I love Barry, but Barry's family. Barry Ferguson's one of the greatest midfielders I've ever seen in my life. One of the greatest Rangers players of all time, as much as I can judge all time. Phenomenal player. And yes, we would love to have a player like Barry at his peak in our team right now. But Walter got rid of Barry. Walter got rid of Barry when he was at his peak because of what he did with Scotland, sitting on the bench against Iceland. I was at that game as well. Maybe it's me. I think I'm just a big fat jinx. I just attract controversy. And he's given us the Vickies on the big screen there. He's given the cameramen the big screen, the Vickies, whatever it was. But Walter's like, nah, you've got to go, because Walter knew it took a bigger. Nobody protested. Nobody had a problem with Walter. Was in the gaslighting us, and he was getting rid of Barry Ferguson. Full stop. He had him back in for the game at Tannadice where we won the league. He did him the manners of having him there to help Davy Weir lift that trophy, because Barry was the club captain, but he went to Birmingham City, and that was that. And we still have players going to Birmingham City, and everybody knew that Walter knows about Rangers, and Walter had the manners. He's a proper Rangers man, and he knows about the manners. Oh, Celtic, we can't be saying we're delighted to have them. That's weak. We can't be delighted to welcome Celtic to Ibrox, hate them, tell them you hate them. They would say that to us. Don't. You've got to have the manners if you want to be a proper Rangers person, if you want to be a proper person. And Boydie's there again on Sunday with what's the sports science? The sports science running the club. It should be, because it's a sport. It's about being fit. It's about avoiding injuries. That's a massive part of winning football matches. It's a massive part of any sport. You know, maybe not so much the darts or the snooker, but even then, these guys go out jogging and stuff like that because it helps them feel better about themselves and it helps them be more accurate in the sport in which they are participating. It's a very atavistic, deliberately anti-intellectualism, anti-medical advancements. They should still be training. We won more trophies when we're training at the Albion. You know, when we're training a former Greyhound stadium that's like a car park, you know, but everybody was training in car parks and gravel pitches and local parks back then. That's a big part of it. It's deliberately backward stuff, and somebody got in touch. I'm sorry, I don't know who it was, after I was talking about my preference for the cheese. I mean, my preference is the McCoy's steak flame grill. I'm not going to get into that again, but I was talking about how next in line is the Golden Wonder cheese and onion, which made a bit of a comeback, didn't it, a few years ago. And I said I couldn't handle the salt and vinegar though. You know, I went into Morrison's, there was no cheese and onion left, but I couldn't handle the salt and vinegar, so I just went for plain, which is plain, it is ordinary, but it can do a job, but I can't handle the salt. Too tangy. Somebody got in touch and they said, well, you should try spring onion. The solution here, Alec, is spring onion. And thanks to that person, I'm sorry I don't have your name. I can't remember your name there. But I think that makes sense, because you get the onion for the cheese and onion, and there's also spring in it, oniony, kind of vinegary almost. It's kind of vinegar light, isn't it? It's like a halfway measure. It's a combination of the two. Doesn't work though, does it? Paul Le Guen was supposed to be a combination of the two. He was a continental manager. I mean, he was from France. He'd managed in France. He had won domestic competitions on the continent, and Lyon had hundreds of money. But he was going to revolutionise the whole sports department. He was going to revolutionise the way we ran our club, the way we ran our team, and that would let us, downsize a wee bit, but win things on the cheap, because the downsizing was having to start then, wasn't it, when Paul Le Guen arrived in 2006? So we wouldn't have to waste all the money we'd wasted under Advocat just to get past, Europe and Christmas once. Christmas in Europe once we get past. Be still in Europe after Christmas once under Dick Advocat, as great as the little general was. So this was, we're going to do it. It was all these different, and he'd won, and he was French, and he knew the French. It didn't work, did it? Didn't work. And Walter Smith, he'd come in to replace Le Guen. He'd already replaced Bertie Vogts, which was the other great example from my life of something. It's a combination of two things that you think must work. I mean, I love Scottish football. I love the Scotland national team. I know, we'll part that just now. Bertie Vogts, the Germans, they drank. The Germans drank. They had alcoholic footballers, Gerd Müller, they had guys that would die of alcoholism, or really have a terrible life, a terrible private life, and a lot of really dodgy nut job stuff going on off the park. But they could win. They would win World Cups. They would win European Championships. So we love the Fitbit. We've got a wee thing with English, a wee bit of a rivalry with English as well, and we love the booze. Can you make it work for it? Call me Bertie McVokes. Don't mind if I do, because that's a dream for me. You've won the Euros as a manager. I was there, Euro 96. I was at the final against Czech Republic when Bertie Vogts won the Euros, and he'd won the World Cup as a player. And the UEFA Cup with Borussia Mönchengladbach and stuff. This guy knew who he was. This was the perfect. I think it was the worst Scotland team of all time. The worst Scotland performance or moment ever was when we're 2-0 down to the Faroe Islands, in the Faroes and all that, and even Dougie Donnelly was ready to pit his fit through the telly that he was actually hosting. So it was horrendous. It didn't work out at all. It's the whole kind of chicken lasagna thing. I love my chicken. I love lasagna. And I've told you before, Findus in the early 90s or mid 90s, they brought out a chicken lasagna, and I thought, well, that's the combination of two things I love the most. It's going to be the best food stuff of all time. It was one of the worst things I'd ever tasted. So sometimes it's not that simple getting again other things you like, and it's making sense. So it's making it sense. Spring onion. It was the spring onion monster munch, wasn't it? It was spring onion monster munch. Pickled onion. It was pickled onion monster munch. It was pickled onion munch. Let's say I don't have the science. I don't have the sports science to know what flavour of crisp it was. But Chris Boyd was anti-vax, anti-mask, anti-that sports. I didn't want to cheer that goal Barry scored against Dundee United back in January 2007. But his family, isn't he? I mean, Barry's family. Boydie, total Rangers legend. I was there. His debut, and he scored all the goals against. Is it Peterhead? I think it was Peterhead. Talking of Highland League teams coming to. It was repeated in the league. I think it might have actually been a league team by that point. Anyway, the whole point is their family. The family, I mean, boy, from my part of the world as well. My dad, Kilmarnock supporter, my grandpa's a Kilmarnock supporter, and Boydie, he's played for them a couple of times, played for us 3 times. Total Rangers legend. But family, at this time of year, it can all go pretty wrong during the festive period. That game, the 2nd of January 2007, that was the first game I had been to since the worst moment of my life. The worst moment of my life was 10 years later when my mother-in-law died quite suddenly. Horrific. That's mostly. Well, she was amazing. She was a kind of Margaret Schlegel to my Leonard Bast. She knew I was the kind of young man that had seen the covers of too many books, but she was great, like Margaret Schlegel, and I loved her. She was fantastic, but most it was the pain it was causing my wife. There was nothing that. That's it's like if it's happened to somebody that you love, it's worse than if it's happening to you, kind of thing. That was the worst moment of my life ever. But for me, before that, outside of that, even the worst thing that happened to me was. Well, I can't tell you. It's private, but it happened to me. My wife was there as well, on Christmas Day, the early hours of Boxing Day, 2006. In the first game I'd been to. This is the first I'd been to a football match since. And you're wanting stuff that happens in your family life, wanting the football to make that right, doesn't it? It just seems like Rangers were going through exactly the same thing, the same self-hating kind of trauma, self-inflicted trauma almost that I'd seen happening, and it just was it'd been done to me. It wasn't violent and like that, but I had to make sure it didn't turn violent, and it wasn't just I was trying to make sure I didn't turn violent. It was horrific. A few drinks, couldn't get in the car and just leave. You're trapped, and I don't want to get into it at all. But it's maybe ringing bells if you've seen EastEnders. Any EastEnders episode over any Christmas period of kind of a bit like that. So that was the worst thing, and it's. But that was the first game you'd been to after Christmas, after Boxing Day 2006. The first game you'd been to was Fir Park on the 2nd of January when Dado Purcell scored the goal and we beat them 1-0, and Gavin Ray was the captain, and we knew the manager was gaslighting. There was gaslighting even in common usage back then, but no gaslighting, funny by gaslighting in the 1940s, stage play, and then it becomes a film. We know it's always been there, but I don't know if it was used the way it is used now in the kind of more advanced social media age. I mean, more intense social media age than it is now than it was in 2007. I don't know, but there's definitely the same kind of real strong parallels with it. People, he thinks he's so fancy, but doesn't he get Rangers? He's gaslighting us. That's the first game you were at since. But did we know? I thought you got the season ticket. I thought you were, Mr. Loyal Rangers fan. We played St Mirren 29-30th. How can you forget? It was a bad result against St Mirren, followed by a bad day, a tumultuous Rangers experience in a negative sense against Motherwell. St Mirren followed by Motherwell. It's not going well. It's a foreign manager with a shaved head. It's far too fit for his age. He must be spending too much time keeping himself fit. He should be dedicating that time to Rangers. That's the difference. Doesn't understand this club. Get him out. I hate him. I couldn't go to that game, could I? I couldn't go to the St Mirren game. We drew one each and Barry was in the centre circle on his knees at the final whistle. We've only drawn one. We've dropped 2 points to St Mirren. I hate my teammates. I hate that manager. He doesn't appear. And he's having a packet of pickled onion monster munch because after the part that's it. It's just drove Le Guin crazy. He sacked him. You'll never play for this football club again. No, sorry, that's not how it works here, Paul. We know this club. We know how this works. You're gonna go. No, I wasn't at that because I woke up on the 29th or the 30th, the day of that game. I can't remember the exact date in December. And where electrics were off, the neighbours there who lived in a wee terrace. Neighbours were fine, and street lights were fine. All that. I did the old, the circuit breaker thing, and it didn't make any difference. I'm checking the house now. I've got basic knowledge, roughly how this stuff works. Couldn't find a thing that was wrong. Didn't know what was happening. But my dad, he knows that kind of stuff. He knows that his whole working life. He's really good with that kind of stuff. So I phoned him because I just needed to get the power on. And my mum was at her work with the car, with their car. So it's like, you'll have to come down and get me if you want. They're doing in Ayrshire. We're in Glasgow, so I went down and I got him and brought him up, and I didn't have time I couldn't go to the football, and it's a really strange feeling when you can't go to the football. It's when you're used to it, when Rangers are playing at Ibrox and you're no there. It's a really weird feeling. It happens to me on average, say once per season I miss a big game at Ibrox. For something like this, something that happens, life happens. And you're wanting football life to make up for your real life, and it doesn't work like that. You can't get the two of them confused. because they won't help you out just when you most need them to. And it turned out it was a slug. A slug had gotten in, must have been under the kitchen door or something like that, and it got into the socket of the washing machine, and it had fused the whole. And it actually it'd go in. It was a big slug, and but wasn't after it was fried. I mean, it paid the ultimate price for its incursion for breaking into your house, and it go in somehow behind the socket, and then into the actual socket, behind the plug, then into the socket, and it obviously had fried itself, and it just it fused the whole house, the electrics in the whole house. And we had the SSEB out as well before them, the SSE, the Scottish Power. I'm showing my age there. My uncle used to work for the SSEB. He'd come in with the Jaco, and my uncle Dave, no longer with us, good Rangers man as well. And Walter Smith, he did his electrician's apprenticeship. He started that with the SSEB when he was at Dundee United. When he started his professional career at Dundee United, his dad is a crane driver, and he's telling him, "No, you can't rely on Fitba. You can't rely on Fitba, son, to look after you," as so many dads have down the years. And he was quite bloody right. So Walter trained and he's a fully qualified electrician. SSEB, he was in, but we go to Scottish Power out to have a look, and they couldn't find anything, and it was beyond their remit. My dad says that was a bit, we're just trying it on there, didn't really work. And he had to come up again the Sunday before we found that slug. We found that slug, and that's the only reason that I saw my mum and dad again. And I saw him for a few more years, but it never got any better, and it was threatening to happen again. And I had to, and that's why I have the quiet Christmases and quiet New Years that I have now, and why I love them so much. I love them so much. How you doing, folks? My name is Alec Anderson. You nearly drove me out of my head. Well, you never shed a tear. I remember all that you said. Told me love was too plebeian. Told me you were through with me, and now you say you love me. Well, even if that's true, you can cry me a river. Cry me a river. This is your Fat Eck. Rangers are going to be 11, 14 or 17 points behind Celtic after the close of play on Thursday. What do you want it to be? We haven't beaten them in the entire calendar year 2024. Let's beat them in the entire calendar year 2025. Preview pod coming to you in association with Jersnet. Check out the Jersnet podcast on Sunday. I think I'm going to be on it on Friday. I think I'm on it on Friday. So that'll be naff. There'll be somebody else good on it on Friday. But Sunday's the reaction to the game at Fir Park there, and a preview of the Celtic game. I've not had a chance to watch it myself, but it was Colin and Craig and Ben, so that'll be a cracking pod. It's still on the Jersnet YouTube page. That was a Sunday night flagship show, so get on there, the Jersnet YouTube channel, because I am sponsored by Jersnet, and I'm also sponsored by football during the festive period. You get those two fixed dates in the calendar, 25th of December, and you have got the 1st of January, and you must enjoy. You must spend it with people, you must spend it with family. It's enforced jollity. It's like a wedding. It's like an engagement party. If you don't fancy it, doesn't matter. It's coming. It's happening. If you're no there, you're a weirdo. You've let everybody down, and if you go along, you've got to be seen to be enjoying yourself, but if you make an arse of yourself, well, you're going to get a slag, and if you enjoy yourself too much, if you don't enjoy yourself, you're a weirdo, backwards, whatever, and if somebody else decides to get in your face and be a complete pain in the ass to you all night, you've got to take it, because if you react to that, you're also, it's dangerous. So between that, you've got the football. Even last year, we had the winter break last year, we still managed to play the football through the festive period, and one of them's always a Rangers-Celtic game, isn't it? A Rangers-Celtic game, Celtic-Rangers, the Glasgow Derby, In my day, we called them the Old Firm games, but that's completely changed now, because it's a completely new set of fans supporting one of the teams, and it was all about the support and how they get taken in by both clubs and their kind of fake enmity that makes money for both clubs. But brand new Rangers, brand new set of supporters, so it doesn't apply anymore. It can't be an Old Firm derby, but you've got that in there, and a few other games, like, for example, you're away to St Mirren and away to Motherwell. It's the three fixtures dotted all through that are confusing the issue. Am I going to get to the games? Are the games going to enjoy it? Are they going to make Christmas and New Year better for me or worse for me? It just means that you've got these markers on your historic kind of diary and your backward calendar, looking at back and just seeing, I fixed those horror moments around about Christmas and New Year, I can fix them by the games that were getting played. And I know Nick Hornby did this like 30 years ago in Fever Pitch, but it's true then, and it's still true. How you remember, events by the football, but Christmas and New Year is two other events that you always remember. And it's just, my wife's saying to me, I'm saying to her, it's 18 years since, since that horror Christmas that changed everything. And friends were like, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? And I was losing friends, and I lost my teeth because I was grinding my teeth for years with the fucking anger, and just like, this can't be true. This can't be true. This is my family. Everybody sticks by their family. No, they don't. When it gets toxic, you have to go, or else you'll end up in the jail. It's that time of year again, isn't it, folks? It's that time of year again. I'm going to be your the mask slips. The mask slips. Remember the mask slipping? The mask slips. It was when I was doing the post-match reaction pod for Jersnet last season. And it was March last year or March this year, depending on when you get to see this sad wee pod of mine right now, if you ever get to see it. And thank you for your charity if you do. It was on Jersey, and I was doing a post-match reaction pod after we'd conceded 2 goals to Motherwell. We'd had a bad result against Motherwell. Strange. That's what sticks in my mind, because it's such a rare event. And they beat us 2-1 at Ibrox. That big Canadian fella, we should have bought him. What happened to him? Did he go somewhere expensive? He was really good for Motherwell last season. But they beat us 2-1 at Ibrox. And I think we must have been playing Celtic the following week or something like that. And I was just doing the post-match reaction pod, and I just said, right, well, I think they're coming up soon, so we better make sure we get stuck into the bastards. Or we're ready, we get ourselves sorted so that, we're ready for the bastards. I just slipped in a wee B word referring to our old friends across the city, Celtic. And at that point in time, on the Jersey podcast, I'd done a few post-match reaction pods where we're getting beat off Celtic, and I wasn't getting ripped into Celtic and like that. I was just talking about us and our problems and blah, blah, blah. A lot of Celtic fans would actually get in touch and say, I was watching the pod there hoping today about ambulance chasing. We're actually all right. A lot of folk were just ambulance chasing, but a few of these folk were getting in touch and just saying, that's nice, that's good. The way you're talking about the football, I actually quite enjoyed that there. All right, okay. And I'm thinking, well, I'm saying to them, well, you're going to enjoy it, aren't you? Because your team's won, but we'll find out what happens when my team beats yours, and we'll see. And it's so far since then, it hasn't happened. And one of the fellas, but it wasn't enough. It was one of the Celtic fans who was getting in touch. He couldn't wait for Rangers to actually beat Celtic for my mask to slip. This mask that I'm nice to Celtic fans, that I talk to Celtic supporters, and just he quoted me back to myself in the comment section under that YouTube video. They bastards. The mask slips. The mask slips. I thought, there's no mask. There's no mask. Just like, it's game day, boy. It is game day. We want to get steamed into you. No quarter asked nor given. You are evil, the enemy, the bastards. No matter who you are, if you are between us and what we need to achieve, it's all part and parcel of competitive sportsmanship. But it just proved that thing. It doesn't matter if it's Celtic supporters, Rangers supporters, Aberdeen or SNP supporters, Labour supporters, whatever. Any grouping of people within that grouping, no matter, they'll be under the same umbrella or whatever like that. There's going to be the different types of personality. It's a personality type. You get to see, and there's plenty of Celtic fans who have said disgusting stuff to me, horrible stuff, horrific. I would never judge them. I would never judge them as being representative of the whole bunch. It can get overwhelming at times, particularly the social media stuff, and it's just sometimes you have to step back and go, thousands of folk have looked at this video, and it's maybe a dozen have got in touch and been horrible. So there's thousands of folk are watching it and going, fine. They don't care either way. Now, that's what you've got to look at. You know what I mean? It's when you have that thing. Remember, we had Celtic fans coughing through the minute silence for the Ibrox disaster. The last time Celtic had a big supporter at Ibrox, probably, I can't remember what exact anniversary that was. Billy McNeil came out and laid a wreath on the park, as did John Gregg. But Celtic had the full Celtic end, and there was boys and it's just, do it or don't, you know what I mean? That try to cover it up as it was out of order, not putting the excuse into it, knowing that you're going to need an excuse for that. So we're going mental about that. No Rangers, but it's one of the kind of living in a sewer type thing that they can drag on for days afterwards, and the back and forth. And you did this now, but you did that, and blah blah blah. And the thing for me was always, well, I was there, and there was maybe a couple of dozen tops, because that's the thing with a minute silence. It only takes 2 folk to make a noise to break a minute. It's silent. You can hear anything in a football stadium if everybody else is silent. And I would say maybe there was a couple of dozen, say 50 Celtic fans, tops, were doing that. They've got a support of 8,000 there. And nobody ever turns around and goes, well, actually, that's 7,950 Celtic fans that are absolutely, they would never do that. It's always like, no, they're 50, they represent all of them, they're all like that. This kind of stuff goes on, and it gets to the silly point, and I will be partaking in that silliness on Thursday in the front of the main stand. It's Hogmanay, this is your Fat Egg Hogmanay. I'm hosting it. I'm going to be your Mary Marquis, Isla Sinclair, Jackie Bird, and I don't care about Amy Irons. Amy Irons is just I don't have the room. I don't have the time. It's a bit like Rangers goalkeepers. I can only handle 3 at a time. I can only adore, worship 3 at a time. And it's like Chris Woods, Andy Gorham, and McGregor. When McGregor comes in, has his second spell at Rangers, that just join that up with the first spell. Greatest Rangers goalkeeper I've ever seen. So he gets it in. That means Stephen Kloss has to go. So maybe I'll live long enough for Amy Irons to be a brilliant Hogmanay hostess. But right now, it's Mary Marquis, who's probably the first person I ever fancied. And I totally, she actually looked quite like my mum. The same colouring as my mum anyway. So it was probably that kind of Freudian, slightly Oedipal thing or something. As a kid at the time, Mary Marquis, it's only looking back that I realised I was probably in love with her. But she was the host, and sang Isla Sinclair was good. It's like there's only so much adoration. There's a kind of adoration overload. Stephen Kloss had to go. He had to drop out so I could get Alan McGregor in there, get Griggs in there, and it's the same with the yellow jersey, the Rangers goalie. There's only so many I can adore. The Mayo June jolliness gets a bit jammed up, and it's the same with Hogmanay hostesses, and I'm going to be your hostess, your holiday hostess tonight. There's a bit of Julie London there. I do that in the other pod. I don't want to advertise my other stuff, but that's on my iReadyForThisJelly.com, and I've got the full gear on. Do you know when you look up Julie London, Crimea River, put in Crimea River, and it comes up Justin Timberlake, which I like that one as well. I enjoyed the Justin Timberlake Crimea River. Completely different version, obviously, but different song, like Crimea River. He does the dancing and whatever in the video. That was really good. But you're thinking, the minute I put in J, you instinctively think the minute I put in J for Julie London, it'll come back down, doesn't he? Still Justin Timberlake, good J for Justin. Then you put in, I'll just put in U for Julie. I'm really spelling it out now, your type, but still Justin Timberlake. You have to get to Julie. I don't really know what point I'm trying to make there. It's going to be the bells soon, and I'm going to get myself settled down. The idea was to try and make this a quick podcast, but I've tapped into something. Because the mask slips. It's the old firm. I'm going to talk about the manager. I'm going to talk about the injuries. I'm going to talk about the players. I'm going to talk about how much we need to win it, and I'm going to shove that all into the next 5-10 minutes. And because I did that thing. I went up to Morrison's today. It's still getting in the crisp. I'm getting pot noodles now. I've got some Montepulciano under Brutzel because you want to vary it. You're still imbibing, you're still binging, you're still snacking, but it's 2 full weeks of it now, so you've got to start changing it up. And I think so. Instead of the crisps, I'm getting the pot noodles, and instead of the beer, I'm getting the beer in as well, obviously. But I'm getting a bit of wine in there. I might just actually stick to the champers, and I don't want to mix the green and the grape tonight. But be a bit of champers, some sherry and what have you. Bit of wine, whatever that. Just gonna take it gentle, maybe just keep the whiskey. I feel a bit of a traitor as a Scotsman, don't you? But we're getting all the stuff about food and drink, all the adverts for about a month solid, and then the second it turned to, I think it was Christmas Eve, the 24th, about tea time, the 24th, diets. Get yourself in a diet, get on holiday, get in a diet, get a sofa. Why are you so fat? Basically, says the same device that's been telling you for the last month to get really fat, and then advertising the diet shakes. You got to get diet shakes, the diet shakes, and the milkshakes, and my milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. My hot takes bring all the bohoys to the yard, and they're like, we're better than yours. Damn right, yous are better than us. But when we beat you, that'll be the charge. Because if you're on here and you're watching the Fat Egg podcast and you're a Celtic fan, I've had so many get in touch over the last few days, and it's very, very kind, it's very, very nice, and you're very, very welcome. I really appreciate it. But when we debut, and it probably won't be Thursday. You'll be back on Thursday. Just asking me if I'm feeling all right and what have you. But when we do beat you, that's when you'll pay the price, because you'll have to come back on, won't you? You'll have to come back on and see what I was saying, even if you don't want to. You'll be like, what is he what's he going to be like? But we've seen, we never get to see him when Rangers beat Celtic because it just doesn't happen. But is the mask going to slip? Is there going to be some sort of mask that slipped that we didn't realise about and it's going to go? So Merry Clinkmas, I was walking up to Morrison's the day and I was going to get myself some more beers and what have you, and there was two foreign students, obviously foreign students. No, I got past Gennaro's up the side, but it's that kind of nail salon place, which is probably all full of illegal workers, and then there's the kind of charismatic church type building. Then you come and you walk up past the old brew there, and up that wee road, up that side entrance to the Morrison's Island. And there's two students, obviously students, coming down towards me. They've got the bag for life. They're carrying it between them. And it's clinking away. They're obviously foreign, and I'm thinking, doesn't matter if you're only here for like a year or something like that. It's you Scottish now. That is you Scottish now. Merry Clinkmas, because in Scotland it was always New Year. Your forebears will have tell you, particularly ones that have always been going to the nerdy old firm game, how it was New Year was a holiday up here. England had Christmas holidays. Christmas was an England thing. Christmas is like an Americanism. You know, Coca-Cola for them was Santa. It was Coca-Cola for us was like a mixer. It was an expensive lemonade. It was an expensive Vimto that you could get into your bevy, because in Scotland we do drink and we do religious hatred. And there's a loving cup from the Potteries that's going to unite us in that on Thursday. And Andy Cameron was always telling us that Desmond White, he sang God Save the Queen the loudest of everybody in the Blue Room, so I'm automatically dancing harder than anybody else to Depeche Mode at my mate's 40th birthday party in the place with the Guinness flowing and the pictures of the Armalites and the balaclavas up next to the Bacardi and the Jamesons on the gantry. Welcome to Scotland, lucky whites and blue or green heather club hootsmon. Och aye, was like us, damn few, and the Rangers are deed, except when we want 119 to beat 118 and sell all our tickets to games against them. Let's go. Relentless versus We Never Stop. Queens and Kings versus Popes and Archbishops, IRA versus UDA, loyal versus faithful, neighbour versus neighbour, needing an identity, a need that can start being met with the gorgeous spectacle and community of football, and spends the rest of its life backtracking into retrospective justifications, all tenuous, drawn from life but skewed to make worker hate worker, to divide and conquer. The mask slips. 2nd of January. A 2nd of January in the past. Walter Smith can't play for Dundee United against Dundee at Dens in the Derby because the game's been cancelled. The game's been postponed because of the weather. So he goes back to his mum and dad's in Carmyle, and he gets on the Carmyle Supporters Club bus that it was basically invented. That was started by his grandpa. His grandpa Jock started the Carmel Rangers Supporters Club. Walter goes to his first game, Ibrox in the 50s, and beat Queen of South 6-0 in the League Cup. I don't think Jimmy Miller was playing for us at that point, but Jimmy Miller becomes his hero, and then Jimmy Miller joins Dundee United while Walter's on the books. Walter joins Dundee United the month that they're beating Barcelona in the Fairs Cup, and it just seems that everything is possible. Tiny Dundee United, the East Stirling to Dundee's Falkirk of that city. They overturn it. They're overturning the order of things in Dundee, and then they become champions of Scotland when Walter's assistant. It's an amazing thing, and it gives them the inspiration. But that day he's in. It proves that all things are possible, and he's in the Rangers end at Ibrox, and there's a crush. Is him and his brother are leaving, but there's a crush all the time back then at that part of the Rangers end of the exits, and he gets on the bus, and it's only when he get back to Carmyle, and the mothers and the fathers and the brothers and the sisters and that are all waiting, the daughters, and they're all waiting for them to come off the bus because there's no phones, there's no mobile phones in the days, the radio stuff. That's the first they know how bad it's been, the disaster that there's been. And Jockstein helped pick up our dead, and Walter Smith carried Tommy Burns' coffin, because conquerors don't divide. Real football conquerors don't divide. They unite. Union men unite. Guys who know real hardship, they will unite people. And the mask slips. Yeah, the mask slip. The thing I would say is sometimes we're united in this game by hatred, but you need to make sure you know what it is you're hating. The hate is there, be it expressed in kind of Schadenfreude, triumphalism, or turning inwards on your own player, your own manager, your own board. But never forget where it really comes from. If it is hate, then it's not from the football, folks. It is not from the football. It's from stuff that happens to us. I see so many boys. I see so many stuff. So many guys shouting things and getting a real anger and bile about them, about their own team, and that just obviously comes from something else. And I've tried letting the football solve my problems. It doesn't. It's never gonna. Who am I? I don't know. It's a social pressure valve, but I feel as if this week it's the manager's gaslighting us. I'm hearing stuff like this. I'm hearing that. What was it? I wanted. He's never going to make us any better. I wanted to see. I don't mind seeing us no win in the league as long as I can see improvement. It's only the last two games that they've had bad results out of the last month. I know the manager keeps talking about 2 months. He shouldn't do that. I don't know why he keeps saying 2 months. Was it end of November with the draw with Dundee United? No, but he's probably meaning their form in general has been getting slowly better through the season. The idea that there's no signs of improvement, if you want to take that and apply it to the season as a whole, we're 1-6-0 at home to Ross County, 6-0 at home to Kilmarnock, and that's at two different home stadiums. Yanis Hagi's ill. He's got the flu or whatever it is. He's got a virus. That's why he's not playing the other day. And the team that started against St Mirren, why is he waiting to half time to bring on Igaman and Cherny? They should be in the team for this. Well, they started against St Mirren and we were appalling in the first half in that game as well. And Igaman and Cherny were two of the players getting gutted out at half time, the same as everybody else at Paisley. They're part of the problem then, but somehow because they're not, is that Rangers habit? Maybe it's a habit at every club. I'm only supporting Rangers. It's only us, family, that you see with that intensity. You do this thing where by not being there, you're automatically better. The minute you're not there, you're a much better player. And it's like we're looking for things to beat ourselves up with. We are not as good as Celtic. We don't have their money right now, but we're going to get there. We are going to get there. And games like Thursday, Tav's injured, he's out, that's a disaster. Or if you're one of these people, one of these Rangers fans who thinks James Tavernier is the root of our problems on the park, he's a loser, therefore it makes the rest of the team losers. Well, go along and cheer twice as hard, because there's much more of a chance we're going to win this game now if Tav isn't playing. It's his record against Celtic is terrible as far as you're concerned. Everybody's record against Celtic is terrible just now. That's just the way things go when you're trying to get back on top. I feel as if a lot of this stuff we're throwing at the team just now doesn't make sense. I think the manager's press conference in Fir Park after the game, I was watching it, Rangers official YouTube channel, watching it. It came across quite well. It's certainly sincere as far as I was concerned. I think he explains himself too much, and with Rangers supporters, the more information you give them, it becomes ammunition straight away. We want to know. We're grown-ups. Let's act like grown-ups. Let's hear what he's got to say for himself. And he's talking about sports science, the sports science. That's been blown out of proportion. I think it's a really horrible take on things. It's deliberately kind of, I don't know, anti-woke or something. There's a real kind of backwardness about this desire to take something that he's said in terms of trying to explain to us why these players are being dropped, when the evidence is right in front of us. It's as if, I said in I think it was a preview of the St Mirren game, Cherny looked knackered. He looks knackered. He's got this, the evidence was in front of our eyes as football supporters. Cherny's too tired, so he drops him. He gives him a rest. He tries to give him a rest. And we have been saying that he cannot beat John Souttar, the League Cup final. He can't play in the League Cup final because he just goes down injured against Spurs because the intensity of the games are playing. Now, I know the manager has said this thing. He diagnosed the problem with us having so many injuries last season. Maybe it was just getting rid of Ryan Jack and Kamar Roof. That automatically cut down the number of injuries we had on the team sheet. Maybe the solution he was talking about was just getting rid of everybody who seemed injury prone. But he's explaining to us. He is explaining how many games Cherny has played in comparison, twice as many this season alone compared to the whole of the previous season that he's played. That's going to have an effect on the guy. And they said, well, that means he's got to beat everybody in Scotland. Well, he has been beating everybody else. He can't beat Celtic. Right? He hasn't beaten. That's a lie straight away. He hasn't beat. He's lost to Kilmarnock. He's lost to He's drawn at home with Dundee United. He's lost away to Aberdeen. He's lost away to Celtic. But that's part of the thing. That's part of the problem. The more games he was winning, even in Europe, of these consistently magnificent results on the road in Europe, and occasional magnificent results and performances at home in Europe, against top level opposition. And it was people were reacting to that. Rangers fans were reacting to that by saying, "Yeah, but until they can beat Celtic, it was been unable to beat Celtic. That was the real cracks. The real cracks were there. You've got to get them plastered. Everything else was just papering over those cracks." And as I was saying on after the game at Motherwell on Sunday, in my immediate post-match depression, the same as everybody else was experiencing, well, the problem here is, by the time it does beat Celtic, the cracks are everywhere else. The cracks have spread all over the place. It's going to feel like beating Celtic is papering over cracks. That's how we felt. That's depression. That's you just talking like everything's crap. That's a post-match reaction. But if everybody's telling him the only thing you have left to do is beat Celtic, he's like, right, let's do that. Let's focus on doing that. He knows it'd be different if nobody at this club had indicated in any way that they expected us to finish second this season. That if John Bennett, I've got my problems with any kind of businessman, and I'm always a bit wary of big talking businessmen. And but I thought his message to us, which was much delayed, and everybody was giving him a hard time because there'd been no kind of statement, and I think that was a constructed thing. Why is there no statement? Why is there no statement? Did we really want a statement? Fair enough, he comes out and talks about the debacle, and it was a debacle of us not being able to get into Ibrox this season, but it was well worth it. It was worth it in the long for what we provided in the Copeland Road stand for our wheelchair supporters. He came out and was, if he's the dodgy businessman that can't be trusted, that I so easily label so many businessmen, even ones that are involved with Rangers, sometimes especially ones that are involved with Rangers. He would have been telling us how it's going to be great, we're going to win trebles and stuff like that. Yeah, we're definitely going to win a couple of trophies this season. All through that interview, he was brutally frank about the mythical player trading model and how Philip Clement was all in for a rebuild, stuff like that. He's telling us we're not going to win in this season. This is going to be hard. It's about rebuilding this squad, and we're going to have to deal with some pain this season. It's not as if we've not been warned about this. And there was a lot of hysteria in the first few months of the season. Jimmy Fallon coming into Aberdeen, look at what he's done. Look at the price they're paying for what he did by screwing the arse out of them in the first 6 games of the season, whatever that 8 games was it, that run of Aberdeen. We can't finish third. If we finish third, that's a disgrace for Clement. Well, Clement's still getting the shit slagged out of him, but he's 2 points ahead of Aberdeen with a game in hand. That's not the kind of stuff you boast about Rangers. But that's a hysteria. That's a kind of it's out the way. Clement is obviously trying to put in place the stuff that lets us. We won't go into free fall. We want to overachieve, but in even trying to keep ourselves second in the league and qualify for the next round of Europe, we're losing players every week because they're playing so many games and our squad is too thin. We don't have the quality. We're complaining on Sunday and at St Mirren the other night because we don't have the quality. We can't afford to be dropping, Czerny, Igaman. We can't afford to drop Raskin at Paisley. But you can't afford not to have them playing against Celtic either. And it basically adds up to we don't have the squad, and the manager has told us, and the outgoing chairman has told us we need to build this squad up. We don't have the players, and this is what it looks like. This is the reality of that. For me, if you think it's just a case of Clement isn't good enough, if your starting point has been that Clement will be judged on how close he is to winning the league or how far he is away from winning the league, and it could be 17 points by close of play on Thursday. It could be we are 17 points away from winning the league. Then obviously you will want him sacked. But you're deluding yourself if you think we were going to win the league this season. And I spoke about that in my previous pod, how we do delude ourselves. I'm a part of that delusion as well. I told you my wife got me a present for Christmas, which involves a trip in the second weekend of May this season. And we don't know just now, obviously, but usually that's usually when there's an Old Firm fixture, and it'll be at Ibrox. And I'm thinking, I can't miss that game. Because even then, and it was 9 points on Christmas Day, mind you, I'm like, we're going to win the league. We're going to win. You have to be that. Things can change so quickly in football. So I get it. I still, innately, you still always believe until it's mathematically impossible, and it's always arithmetic, that you think impossible to win the league. You always think there's a chance, there's a chance. Where there's life, there's hope, and it isn't the hope that kills you. Hope keeps you alive, but you can't just hope blindly. You've got something to cling on to, and I get it why people are thinking. But I think if you look at it as it's a kind of shoe in, it's a certainty almost that we're going to finish second this season. But I don't see any signs of improvement. Yes, you do. Some of the football we've played this year has been scintillating. Some of it's been shit. And when you play shit, we play shit the same way that we've played shit before. So it reminds us of when we played shit before. Steven Gerrard, I remember we conceded that late equaliser to Hibs, but in the game before, Gerrard won his first Old Firm game, and it was our first Old Firm game that we'd won for 3 years. Yeah, but Gerrard had us up top of the league and all that kind of thing. Well, it fell away the first 2 seasons, and the manager's been referring to that. The current manager has been referring to that as well. But Gerrard did only win 1 league. That's the only major trophy that he won, and it was the one we wanted, and it meant the world to us, and it was phenomenal. Very quickly at Rangers, that's what it is to be a winning club. It changes to something else. You need to be winning the next thing, and very quickly it's a crisis again. Even though we got to a European final and won the Scottish Cup the following season, it was already a crisis by that point because we hadn't got into the Champions League, and we got into the Champions League the following season. That became a crisis because we took a record doing. It's always a crisis if we're not. It seems to be it's a crisis based on the thing that we're not doing. And the European, I've always said the European form just now for me is phenomenal, and over a few seasons it's been great. It's just been it's been tremendous. I think it can only be the 60s that rivals it in terms of consistency. And in the 60s we had an awful, really painful defeat to Eintracht Frankfurt in a semi-final, and when they horsed us the same way as them beating us by the narrowest possible margin in a final this time is really painful. We get stuffed by 6 goals by Real Madrid, just as we get in the 60s, just as we get stuffed by 6 goals by Liverpool in this current period. But they still level. In those days we were getting to final. We got to 2 finals in the 60s and another one in 1972. 2 finals in 3 years. But from then onwards, we've had our moments. Reaching 2 finals, getting to a goal away for the Champions League final in '93. But the consistency of just good results and qualifying from group stages has been phenomenal. This manager isn't trying to win just one trophy though. He's wanting to win. He's wanting legacy versus he's wanting to get us back up to being the team that is splitting the trophies with Celtic and then become the team that is winning more trophies than Celtic will win and getting us back up. That takes big, deep foundations to get built. And for us to be in second place, as long as we're second, that's, I don't know. I feel as if we haven't been promised that much, that we can turn around and say, well, you've failed in your targets. The injuries thing seems to me every club gets injuries. I think he's talking about the diagnosing how we're getting much more injuries last season, many more. And the reason the injuries we're getting this season are so, debilitating for the squad as a whole is because the squad is so thin, because we wanted to clear out all those players that we did clear out, but to replace them all, the state we're in financially just now, it's not going to happen. It's going to take a while to build up. Talk of players leaving during the January transfer window. We're going to have to get, was it I think it's Yilmaz, Dessers, and an anti-Welsh thing going on, Matondo and Lawrence are being rumoured by somebody that's the 4 that are going to go. They're going to have to get sold before we can buy anybody else. And January signings are never that great anyway. They're never generally don't work out too well. They'll plenty have. But it's always a bit difficult bringing folk in the middle of the season. But I think we need to get in another striker and a centre-half minimum. Maybe a couple of centre-halves. But the idea that Clement's gaslighting us and lying to us, I think that's over-dramatic stuff. This thing everybody's crap and always has been when the manager's talking about the League Cup final. The League Cup, what a performance. And that's not a Rangers thing to hold up a game that you lost. It's been a great performance. I have this ticket in my pocket. I didn't realise I had it still. It's a wallet. I've got a wallet. I'm an old man. I don't use my wallet. It's been there for 2 weeks and 2 days. Just sitting there festering away. It's my 17th League Cup final ticket. I'm really proud to have been to that many League Cup finals watching Rangers, and that's not a big total for a Rangers fan of my age because there's been so many League Cup finals. But that's our 3rd straight League Cup final, and 2 of them's under Clement. and stuff like that we weren't doing. We weren't doing under Gerrard or anybody else. It's just we're ticking along. We're getting there. These little tallies, and I'm afraid, it looks like little tallies, little targets is all that Thursday's game has been reduced to possibly achieving. But we've got to do that. This is the hard miles. This is the hard yards. Sorry, that you have to kind of dig out. Celtic haven't lost a game this season, domestically. Let's do that. Let's try and as I say this, I know the squad, the team we've got is making it unlikely. Celtic could quite easily destroy us on Thursday. It could be an annihilation, and I don't ever wanna feel how I felt that day. Take me to the place I love. No, it could be another 5-1 job, something like that. I don't want to see that again. I'm already kind of recalibrating what I want on Thursday. What I want on Thursday is obviously for us to beat them, just any way we can, is to beat them and to stop this rot 7 games, 6 under Clermont, that we haven't beaten Celtic, this run we're on just now. I want that. We need to remedy that straight away. But something like not allowing Celtic to go a full league season unbeaten, because they look good for that just now. We've seen ourselves doing it and Celtic doing it in the last 8 years. So 9 years, it's going to be nearly 2025 as I record this. But I as long as we beat them for that, just to make sure they kind of get a complete season, set it up so that if we get them in the Scottish Cup, hopefully the final, they've got something in the back of their mind to think that this could be bad. What I see happening a lot of times through football history, domestic situations, teams come up against each other constantly. There's a moment where the team that isn't winning, the team that's usually losing out in this clash, will get really, really close and spend a couple of weeks telling themselves, we should have won that game. And with the VAR, the VAR decision, the horrific VAR decision or non-decision that day at Hampden, we really could have won that game. But they will then come up against that team that they said they should have beat and have spent 2 weeks convincing themselves they should have beat, and they get destroyed. And it goes from, we nearly beat them, to we were absolutely nowhere near beating them. Celtic will be coming here to keep the foot in the throat kind of thing, keep us in our place. That's something Celtic have been really sickeningly focused on over the last few years. They want to keep themselves as far away from us as possible, keep us in their rear view mirror. They want that Champions League place. They want that money, as we saw what happened at the end of 2019-2020 season, as Juventus didn't want to take Serie A, Liverpool didn't want to take the English Premier League that they hadn't won for 30 years, but Celtic are like, we'll have that, we need it, we'll take that, everybody vote for us to take, you know what I mean? The mask slips, the mask is slipping. I want to beat them so badly, it's unbelievable, but I'm not going to I'm not going to go all pro Barry Ferguson fervour style and getting rid of Clermont, what have you, and just setting ourselves backwards as a way of expressing just my unhappiness at the real situation we are in just now, where we're going to have to fight tooth and nail for every tiny advance we can make on Celtic. On Thursday, we're going to welcome a team to Ibrox we'll be delighted to welcome a team to Ibrox who've been averaging over 2.75 points per game this season. We're averaging 2 exactly. 18 league games, we've got 36 points. That's what Graham Souness wanted. Graham Souness said, Celtic, it's just another 2 points. He said, just another 2 points when Souness arrived at Ibrox. And when Souness arrived at Ibrox, we needed that. We needed that kind of brutal, just clarity of thinking, that emotionless, focus feel. And he soon found out it didn't mean it was much more than that. It's much more than the 2 points. It was 2 points for a win back then, but that's what we're getting now. We're getting the Souness. Souness would love this total, 36 points from 18 games. That's a wee arithmetic joke there, folks. But in a league where you can, in any one game, you can only win 0, 1 or 3 points, Rangers under Clermont are managing to win 2 per game. If we keep that average of 2 per game, we will finish second easily in both respects. Miles away from Celtic in first and miles ahead of Aberdeen. Probably 10 points ahead of Aberdeen or whoever else happens to be third. We'll easily finish second, but it's about getting up to that level that Celtic are at. 2.78 points per game, whatever it is they're on just now. They've dropped 4 points all season, and the psychology of us beating them once, I don't know, what do you want to actually do? Your immediate problem, the only team that's in front of us, we're delighted to welcome on Thursday to Ibrox the only team in Scotland that's better than us. Because right now we're better than everybody else in Scotland, except Celtic. So what do you want to do about this? Do you want to, because there's no Celtic fans here, we don't have them to kind of inspire us to singing for our team for an extra quarter of an hour? We're going to boo the team onto the park. We're going to boo on Cherney for being a lightweight, for not having the moral fibre, for not having the person, the character to eschew sports science, to just get out there and run until he's even more injured than he was before. No, we just, let's get behind the team. This is a team that we know like to perform for a big crowd. They like a kind of European atmosphere. They like a cup final atmosphere. They played so well in that League Cup final. Let's try and create that kind of atmosphere again. I'm going a bit cheerleader here. I know there's nothing worse than a cheerleader. Even though that's what we're all supposed to be as football fans. This match represents the halfway point of the league season. It's going to be game 19, and as I say, we're going to be 11, 14 or 17 points off the top of the table. At the end of it, what do we want it to be? Because we can play a big part. We can play a big part in it being 11 or 14 even. That might not be too bad. I think maybe take a draw the way things are going with the squad, with the injuries. And we want to change the fact that Clermont hasn't had a win against Celtic. We want that to still be like 7 games Clermont hasn't had a win against Celtic. Do we want to stop that run of his at six games? This team, who are we going to? And I feel what I'm trying to say there, sorry folks, what I'm trying to say, and I'm obviously just getting desperate for my drink, is that I feel we're being too negative. I feel we're no at that point yet. This whole thing, people want things to be definite. I think we want things to be definitely good. So Rangers are going to win the league. It's an absolute doddle. Here we go. It's great being a Rangers fan. Or we want things to be absolutely shit. Definitely bad. This manager's definitely the right person. I said that all along. When Rangers have a really bad time with a bad result, a lot of folk come up with that. Yeah. Tell you, it's a kind of triumphalism. Towards their own doubts about Rangers. I felt like Celtic fella doing the usual thing. I eventually had to just delete it because I was getting involved because it's holiday time fest. I've got the time, so I'll sit and I'll argue away with folk or just have a laugh with them. What he's doing, Rangers years have only ABT, so they didn't count, and so many other leagues that you won didn't really count, and you're not going to win any more leagues, for the next 10 years. We're probably going to get 10 in a row, and I'm just going, aye, mate, aye, that's it. Well, Celtic really have won everything ever, because they've only ever been cheated out of anything they didn't win, so not just that kind of crap that we spout back and forth to each other across the divide, that is the divide of alcohol, the big river of alcohol that flows between us. And I think there's a version of that almost. I eventually deleted the guy, but you eventually just want to turn around and say, do you actually understand, mate? And of course he does. That if Rangers won nothing ever and Celtic won everything ever, and that's what it feels like just now, still wouldn't support Celtic. Do you know what I mean? I love supporting Rangers. It's Rangers I want to support, and I'm talking about family, and it's a dangerous thing to try and make the football can never make up for your family. You used to get your friends are, what was it? You can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family, all that kind of stuff. That used to get bandied about a lot in my family. But there is stuff that happens. I remember standing there, and it's as if I'm preparing us for a defeat here, but it's because of the kind of bad atmosphere going towards our team as we go into a really vital game. And I myself was saying the whole thing on Thursday about if we beat Celtic now, it's going to look like a token gesture because we've gone so far behind in the league. Because I'm not standing here like Mr. Purity, who's always 100% up for it and just happy clapper extremists when I no Rangers defeat ever bothers me. And you have to keep them in check. You have to let them know you're not happy. You have to remind them of the standards. But I think Rangers they can remind us, Rangers support, of the context as well. 2012, infrastructure ripped out. It's going to come and go, ebb and flow, surging forward, falling back. 1 step forward, 2 steps back, blah, blah, blah. And I think over the course of this season, we've taken it from 1 step forward, 2 steps back to 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and hope the last 2 league games were that 1 step. My maths and my arithmetic is getting really confused here when I'm trying to mix it with mixed metaphors. It's getting really bad, I know. But as I say, it's nearly New Year and I'm wanting my drink. But what's the point I'm trying to make? I'm trying to say we should get behind the team and cheer them on, and a lot of people just now are just reacting to the fact that it's a reaction that wants to encompass everything. It wants to be definite about everything. We want to be like the manager is all bad or all good, the whole club is all bad or all good. But for me, it's about supporting Rangers. And I remember what season would it be? Maybe we're definitely still in the lower leagues, possibly the second season. So we're in after the financial collapse of 2012. I was had my season ticket in the West Enclosure temporarily, and I went in there one day, and I think it was one of the midweek games. So I think we're probably League One. I was probably in the third tier, and I'm in the bottom tier of the main stand. And it was a lovely. It must have been early on in the season. I think it would probably be a Challenge Cup game against an Anne in a East Fife or something like that. And I was into the West Enclosure, and there's a fella standing at the pillar from one of the pillars you get in the enclosure up to the bottom of the Archibald Leach lattice work in the front of the main stand balcony, and he was in his 70s, a fit looking kind of early 70s, and the guy was sobbing his eyes out. Sobbing his eyes out. Oh, mate, you're right. He's no, and eventually he was one of the guys that used to sell the Hubba Bubba and the filled rolls. You remember that in the terrace? And because when I started going to see Rangers regularly, it was the terrace, and we only had the enclosures of terrace, and I basically grew up watching football, and I was 20 when the Hillsborough disaster happened, so my whole life really terraces me getting phased out. But you remember going to Parkhead and going to Hampden and all that, the big Rangers ends there, and Tynecastle, Easter Road. But we had a Hubba Bubba and the macaroon bars, and this was one of the guys that he used to sell. He said, I used to meet my dad here, and it was rolls. Something like he would give out the rolls here, and I would then walk about and he was in Australia. He was staying in Australia now, or New Zealand, whatever. So he'd obviously just had made his money, and that was it. And what a brutal way to make money that was, by the way. Getting around about the bears and taking the slagging and all that, but also taking the money because we all wanted a roll or a bit of Hubba Bubba or a macaroon bar. It's funny, and I've had folk telling me, folk coming back after a close season, delighted to see somebody that's still there because they've got the cancer diagnosis and things like that. It is a bit much more than results on the park. When we start getting this kind of, if Rangers don't win, I don't support Rangers, I really wonder what the point of the whole thing is. It is a choice. It's a kind of selected, socially constructed choice kind of family, that you pick. And if you don't want to do it, don't do it. But I've had a lot of folk. There's always somebody wants to tell you it's the worst performance they've ever seen. I've been gone since the 1780s, and that's the worst performance I've ever seen. I'm like, it's not the worst performance I've seen this season. So I don't know how it can be. And it's like, I'll not be back. I'll not be back. I'm not going to go. And I know I don't mean, well, don't then. I just mean, really? When was this period that we played brilliant football every single game? And that's the only. And if you've been going that long, you especially remember, that football could be crap all season. It's still just nice to go to the football, and it's nice about the people that are around you and the sense of family and friendship and kinship that you build up with the supporters all about you. And that's my Christmas. That's my New Year. Let's just get into these bastards and get them absolutely fucking scudded. I would fucking love it. He says going full Kevin Keegan. I don't think it's going to happen this weekend. James Tavernier is out. He's not fit. I think the manager was saying that nobody's back in the squad. I think that means Hagi's still got the flu. So Balogun is touch and go. I don't know if that's mind games with Celtic. Like Balogun is go. He's not going to get touched. He's not playing because that would give us real problems. New Year, it's kind of Sydney Devine type of year. Is Adam Devine? Is he back? Yeah, is he back? We got him back, didn't we? From Motherwell, was he maybe wanted to come in? Because remember it was this time. It was 2 years ago. Michael Beale was telling us he's pushing the captain for his slot at right back. So we're hoping it's going to be Balogun and Proper at centre half, so we can get Dujon Sterling into right back. If Hagi's no playing to go that kind of wide left of the three up front, I'm hoping it's going to be the three behind the one. We're going to have Hefty and Yilmaz. I hope Yilmaz doesn't get bought by somebody over the next couple of days. He's playing quite well, Ridvan Yilmaz. So I'm hoping we can have Hefty, one of them wide right, one of them wide left, and the other one at left back. Obviously, you're hoping Big Dujon's going at right back. I think it's going to be Igaman up front. It has to be Igaman as the up front, but he might start off the left. The big question is whether you play Danilo or you go for a 10. I think if Hagi's not playing, that sorts that out. You would maybe play Igaman up front and have, actually, as the one That's his starting position. And you have Nadeem Bajrami back in at 10. He did well against Celtic at Hampden, so let's get him back in there as your actual 10. And wide on the right, it's got to be Cherney, Václav Cherney, and let's get behind him. The one thing about Cherney is he likes to shout back at us, and it usually works out quite well. He likes a bit of back and forth with the enclosure and with the govern, so that's fine. He'll be up for it. I think he'll be absolutely fine. And where am I missing out? So Raskin has to play, obviously, and it's then a case of maybe he's going to go. Maybe if we've got defensive problems, even the defensive problems we already have, even with if Balogun makes it, it might be worth putting Diamandi and Connor Barron in there. Maybe having Diamandi as a 10 that can run back and forth. Drop Bajrami, who he's losing a bit of faith in just now, the manager. But Raskin has to play. I think it's probably going to be Raskin and Diamandi, with Bajrami up there. But he might fancy getting Connor Barron in there as well, instead of and Bajrami dropping. So the three, it's more as opposed to a 4-2-3-1. It's more of a kind of 4-3-3 really. If it can become a 4-3-3 quite quickly, to give us a bit more defensive solidity, because Celtic are about to destroy, not just beat us but destroy us. They're great at smelling blood. They'll never beat a Celtic when they think their opposition is weakened, so they will go flying in there. We seem to play as if it's like what it used to be like at the five-a-sides. I don't know if you've ever done that thing at the fives where you turn up and somebody was late or somebody didn't turn up, so it was 5 against 4. The number of times, maybe it's because I was always in the 5 and the 4, but I was going to win. The number of times you'd end up like, this is getting ridiculous, because you were kind of naturally holding off because you thought you were superior. But it wasn't fair. I know Celtic have never had a problem with that, so we need to get a bit more ruthless ourselves. We're going to be up against it on Thursday, but you do not know. Maybe Celtic, and this is definitely what we'll be hearing from Celtic fans, I would think, if we do win this game on Thursday, we've took our foot off the gas because we're so far in front. That's fine. Let's do that, because if we beat Celtic, the idea that it won't have a massively positive effect on us and that it won't have a massively destructive effect on Celtic is just depressed talk, because we're still in a dwam after what had happened to us our last two away games. Let's get this year off to the best possible start. Listen, folks, thanks so much for supporting the pod in 2024. It's been lovely. It's been great, and I think I'm not into the whole, subscribers and all that crap. It's just something the folk might hear it, they'll subscribe, and if they like it, they like it. Just watch, just keep watching. But if you keep watching in increased numbers the way it's been going anyway, I mean, even the numbers we've got just now, I don't really care how many. It's more the quality rather than the quantity for me. But I might be able to start, selling the merch. Start selling the merch, the mugs. No, that just this is my catchphrase on the mug. T-shirts with I hate them, on the t-shirt, stuff like that, and I'll be able to make enough money that I could possibly afford recording equipment that's that's not just got either or when it comes to everything's the right way around, and you can judge by the books behind me if it's back to front or not, or my voice is totally out of sync with my mouth. The sound is totally out of sync with me. I'll try and get this sorted for early in the new year, folks. The videos with my mouth's totally out of sync with what I'm saying. I know most of you just listen to it. I would advise them to listen to it, especially when my coupons this size. It's not the nicest thing. The mask slips, you want to slip a mask on to cover this up. But thanks so much, folks. It's been absolutely tremendous. I'm not going to start naming people that get in touch regular, but it's really lovely. And I hope every single one of you has an absolutely brilliant 2025, even before the game. Maybe it's best if you're a Rangers supporter to have a nice new year before the game on Thursday. But aye, we can handle it. As Donald Breeden says to his parole officer and lover, Lily, in that little pub after his first day working for the terrible boss in the diner. Ain't a hard time being invented that we cannot handle. We are blue noses, and we've had to deal with a few hard times, and we've handled the lot of them. And as Neil says, I think the score, which is getting back on top of Scottish football, it's worth a stretch. The score is worth a stretch. I feel as if it's Celtic or the Heat coming round the corner. They're just 30 seconds away, but we don't walk away. We don't do walking away. Have an absolutely brilliant New Year, folks. All the very best to you and yours for 2025. And I will just hand you over now to Fran and Anna and the Alexander brothers. And they've got a brilliant version. A brilliant version of an old Prodigy classic. I won't tell you what the name of it is, but I think it's suffice to say it's time we all changed our pitch up.